Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Strategic Priorities, Communications, and Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee meeting for Thursday, April 24th at 12 p.m. I will call the meeting to order. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest?
None.
No.
Hearing none. Approval of your previous draft minutes, including the package from March 11th, 2025.
Move it.
Moved by Mayor Brown, second by Councilor McKinnon.
Just on that, Mr. Chair. So under number 5, going into a closed session, we're gonna be talking to 15 Park Street. If I look at the closed agenda, there's just the agenda, there's no report. My understanding is that we always had a report. Correct me if I'm wrong there, because the deputy always asked, where's the report? Again, I know how crucial, how important this issue is, as we discussed the other night. I just wanna be very cognizant of the fact that this issue has different layers, different zones that we have to try to bring them together. So, look, we can go into it, but there's no report, so I think it's just gonna be an open discussion. I think we need a report on where we wanna go forward. So,
Yeah,
you
thank
leave it
you
on
for-
the agenda, but I'm just a little concerned that
Yeah, no, thank you for
it's, and
bringing
it's,
that.
again, Mr. Chair, if I can just finish, is that we've established this practice. And I know some councillors have asked, where's the report? All we have on the agenda is the agenda item itself. Reports is the base that we use to have our discussion.
So thank you for that. I guess my interpretation of the reason for going into that was kind of two things. We would be obviously coming out of there with a form of communication that would allow us to effectively communicate to the citizens regarding the legal opinion that we had. And second of all, would allow us to discuss what our next steps are as a city corporation to move forward. So from that discussion then would become a report of those those recommendations of what we're doing, is what I was interpreting. So if that's incorrect, I understand and agree with your comments. So again, not trying to do anything, I wanna be as open and transparent as possible, especially on this file. So we're not going into that to have anything other than to come out of there with what we want to be able to provide to the citizens in regards to decisions and information that was provided to us. So that, I mean, we had that meeting the other night, the same thing we discussed. I thought we'd have a communication on that, but if we're going in here today to determine what that communication is, I'm all right with doing that too.
If I can just add to that, your worship, and through
if-
the chair, because I don't wanna jam up the chair, it was my request that we have this added to the agenda today because of the timeliness around the conversation in closed session in the chambers. We wanted to get a fairly quick pivot for the benefit of everybody that's paying attention to this file, something that we can move forward with quickly. So there wasn't an actual written report done on it. It was more to the chairman's point, just getting a direction from this committee on what our next steps are. And if that turns into a report back to council, then so be it. But we just needed to get a sense from this committee on messaging around what we've determined we need to do next.
Fully agree there, CAO Fraser, but again, I go back to the deputy many times and said, there should be a report. If we're gonna be discussing something, we need something to center around, all of us. Not just maybe you and some others have information, or maybe I have information. We have a report that we can all feed from or give our own opinions. I'll go ahead with the discussion, but just going forward, we need to, if we're gonna do it for one, we have to do it for all. That's all I'm saying, Mr. Chair.
Sure, no, I get
And-
that.
and I-
If
and I appreciate it.
if procedurally we should have that, then if that's a procedural thing and we don't, then maybe we forego it until we have it. Or again, I was under the impression it was to help build that next steps that we would present to council as to a report of, or to this committee of what we do, you know, in light of the decisions that were made about the planning decisions that were made around Park Street, and then how that is going to impact the residents and what we as a city plan to do to go forward on that, to assist in that.
Like I suspect, your worship, just to that point, that if we are able to have that conversation today,
Yeah.
then it will inform a report on this file back to council at some point in time from this standing committee. But as it stands right now, the work of this particular file has been all through planning department. Anything related to this file has been planning department related, but we're now pivoting to the overall corporation responding to what we're doing about this file. So it's now with this group, because it's an intergovernmental affairs. So we're almost kind of starting over again on how we move forward. It's not just a planning department issue anymore.
And I concur with that. I think that's what my expectation was today. I think we've addressed it from the planning perspective and we know where we stand. My request has always been, what information, where do we go from here? How do we assist the residents? What information can we share with them? Our plan, or not information share, but what can we plan to address this going forward? And that's what I'm hoping as this committee, as being intergovernmental affairs and communications. And it just so happens to be I'm the ward councillor for that area, so it's kind of tying all those things together. So, Deputy Mayor, did you have a comment?
Procedurally, back to what his worship talked about when we talk about agenda items. I agree with him. We can't pass a resolution without a report. We need a discussion item. We need a report for that. I'm just trying to remember procedurally, are there times when we go into closed session without a report? And I don't know. I'm sure we have, but I'm not saying it's right or wrong. But procedurally, as long as we're not breaking any rules and regulations, then I'm fine to go in and have that discussion. But if any staff member can speak to that procedurally.
Well, if you recall, Mr. Chair, former CAO always made it clear, and there's directors that were sitting around the table. If something was brought from the floor, she was quick to say, no report, no discussion. We've all remembered it. Because I brought some issues up and she said, no, can't do that. But I just want to go back to the responsibility. Our responsibility, we already checked out the box. It was a planning issue. Our professional planners, registered professional planners, including the master planner, Michael Russ, made a decision that this is not permissible use. We did our work, right? Now the issue is, what else do we have to do? And I'll have that discussion. I'm going to have that discussion. But we did our job as a municipal government. We checked off the box. We agreed, endorsed our professional planner's recommendation that this is not permissible use. And I always go back to our manager of planning development, and that is Mr. David Gundrum. We don't talk about the user, we talk about the use.
Oh, so I just want to comment to that, and I agree. I think as CAO Fraser said, we've addressed that. We're now moving into the next phase, which is around the communication and where do we go next from a city perspective, in light of the decisions that were made, and how do we address that? And I think that's where we need it. We owe it to the citizens of Charlottetown. We owe it to obviously the people in the immediate affected area, but we also owe it to from a planning perspective and others that see with the decisions that were made from a planning perspective. And so we need to come up with that information. We haven't done that yet. We had a preliminary discussion about it the other night. I think we're here today to bring it to this committee level, to create a report, to create something that we can put out there. So if we feel, we can decide here today, if we feel we need a report on the floor here to go into there, I will put it to the members of this committee who can determine that we don't have that and therefore we need it, and we can forego section 5 and move on to the reports. Or we can take the opportunity to have the discussion and know that the public here is watching here today, that we plan to be open and transparent with what we are going to do with the situation with 15 Park Street from the city's perspective.
Your worship, could we not consider the report that was
Mhm.
presented in closed session.
Yep.
I mean, that's the report,
Look,
if we need a report.
CIO and Chair, I only
Yeah.
raise it because, look, I brought up issues in that chamber where I was told, no report, no discussion. Look, I know how critical this issue is, I'm just bringing it up as a point of information, yes, I wanna carry on.
Okay, so, Deputy Mayor, I know you had a comment, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'm fine to proceed with the discussion because we do have this pending legal opinion that needs to be addressed and it needs to be brought forward to the public, so I'm fine with
In the spirit of that, I'm going to motion to move into a closed session as per section 119(1)(f) of the Municipal Government Act of Prince Edward Island. F, to conduct of existing or anticipated legal proceedings or the review of legal advice related to 15 Park Street. Second, okay, thank you. So we'll move into a closed session. Thank you. We're back into an open session, so we're gonna move on to item number 6, which is 2 reports. We're gonna have a brief discussion on A, procedural bylaw, and I'll hand that over to Melanie. Take that, Melanie, or is that somebody else? Tracy, I think.
It is
mentioned
Tracy.
And if Tracy's not here, no, Melanie.
Yeah, I could,
Don't scramble. If Tracy's not here to present, we can put it on the agenda. We can have another meeting if we need to, or we can bring it on the next agenda. So I'm not gonna put you in the spot.
Chair, if you don't mind, I mean, you've moved it to have this discussion. Tracy did a beautiful report. Maybe we could speak to the report?
If you have something there, I don't wanna put you in the spot. If you have something, go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, Tracy, has extensive experience working in council over 10 years. Really wonderful that she was able to step in and kind of guide this process on this important bylaw that is council's bylaw. So she noted in the report that previous amendments were made in the last year, and that going forward, that additional requests she's gathered. And actually, I had it here, I'm sorry, just.
Everyone has it in their package.
Yeah, it's in the back.
And I think today, I mean, we're just really, if everyone's had a chance to read it,
To advance it to.
it was pretty straightforward. Tracy's work on it with the changes, both outlined in the blue and the red, it's pretty clear.
So I do wanna say that, council was afforded the opportunity to provide feedback into
Yeah.
that, through an internal mechanism. Not sure how much, feedback was received, but based on what was received, my assumption is it's been implemented in here, or at least given consideration in areas where there might have been common themes. And the next point of action would be to then bring this to council through a special meeting likely, to go through it kind of top to bottom and
Yep.
have some wholesome discussion around it, or further approvals. Is that the game plan?
I move that we accept staff's recommendation and as a committee, move this forward for council for consideration. So I move that. I read that.
And that's what it is, right?
Resolutions on the floor.
Resolutions on the floor.
So under,
I guess there's no resolution.
take a resolution,
Motion's on the floor.
motion. So under the, trying to find it here, to speak twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
We do follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Sorry, what section, your worship?
I had it,
I'll bring it up here, I have it here too.
I had notes on it and I just don't have them right in front of me right now.
Through chair to your worship, it's on the copy page 7,
Page 7,
page 7 of the package, on item 4.3.
so if you go to Robert's Rules of Order, it says each speaker should speak twice. We do acknowledge in our procedural bylaw that we do follow Robert's Rules of Order. Again, if you do open it up to three times to speak, just look in the council there, 3 times 10, that's 30 opportunities to speak, which is great. Do we go 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute? Again, these are issues that have to be ironed out. Then when we go to public meetings, public consultations, we just allow 1 opportunity.
That's not part of this procedural rule.
No, I know, but I think that, if we open it up for ourselves, we should be looking at opening it up to the public also. So, I'm concerned that, we have Robert's Rules of Order. We try to keep it confined, it's a bit flexible. I know we don't always keep the 5 minutes or keep the 2 minutes, nor do we keep the two opportunities to speak. So that was a concern I have. The other concern I have, Mr. Chair, is the Committee of the Whole. I don't know if I saw it, that's on section 47?
Your worship, are you referring to Committee of Council and definitions?
No,
Or-
it's the addition to the Committee of the Whole, near the end.
Oh, near the end, okay.
Committee of the whole.
44.
Chair, page 21.
And does it require quorum, I didn't see that, maybe I missed it. Because educational sessions, or we're gonna call them information sessions, don't require a quorum. So are we requiring quorum for a committee of the whole? Because we do require a quorum for our standing committees. So that has to be put in there too. If you don't have quorum,
Well, I think, okay, so it's a great question, and I think to address that, if we were to have a committee, or sorry, meeting of the whole, or whatever we're calling it, the committee of the whole,
Yeah.
and only 2 people attended, let's say 3, yourself and 2 other counselors, and we're having discussion, and then that discussion gets furthered to council for whatever reason, and the rest then say, well, no, I don't support any of that. It doesn't give a lot of merit to the 3 people who were there to, so we should have,
that's why it should, the
yeah, like,
quorum
at least we
required
have enough people there to,
50% plus one.
yeah, 50% plus 1 to bring the message forward, that's what I would think as well. So again, I don't know if today's the day to start adding those things, or if we just noted, Melanie, and then of course council's gonna weigh in on it
Yeah.
as well, but
And-
that's a good point.
This adds another committee structure to our committee, standing committees and special meetings and regular meetings. And I've heard that we have too many committees, and we just should have 4 committees, standing committees. This is adding another layer, so.
But this is ad hoc though, this would be when needed, right? We're doing that,
Well, I don't know, would the rules for the committee of the whole apply to, I know back in 2022, you remember, Deputy, when we had the issue of the shelter moving down to Park Street? We made a decision to say no, and then 6 council members asked the office of the mayor to say, no, we want a special meeting. So that was, remember, that was provided, we had that meeting. So I don't know if
I
that's.
think there's a consensus, I mean, a lot of the council have talked about the opportunities to have these information sessions, whether it's be updated through administration. I don't see them happening every month, they probably all happen when needed. I mean, yeah,
Okay, and could I ask, like, who sets the agenda? Right,
I
so
would
this,
assume it's the mayor, or what we're, or no, the minutes, like what we're asking for. I
Yeah.
think the agenda is what we're likely asking for in that
yeah,
information.
so Mr. Chair, information sessions in this committee of the whole, 2 different beasts. Information sessions will remain in our procedural bylaw. We can still have information sessions. This is a committee of the whole, which we did have prior to the MGA days. And those meetings, I don't know how many times they were open to the public, but
It gives us the opportunity, right? If we have it there, it gives us the opportunity possibly, whether we act upon it all the time, it's the fact that it's there and it's at our,
as an option.
as an option for us to do, I think is more of how many times we use it, in what circumstances, is to be determined, I would think.
So perhaps we could leave that part in there for council discussion, but
Yeah.
I think to the mayor's point, it's a bit of a contradiction when we say that we're going to allow in section 37.2, people can speak 3 times, when higher up on page 9, it says that we're gonna follow Robert's Rules of
Yeah.
Order, so that's kinda going back to that being a little bit pregnant, you can't kinda do it both ways.
And Mr. Chair, I've heard it many times, and so is you, same with yourself, Debbie, sitting in there, well, no, I didn't speak, that wasn't a question. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a question, you spoke, when you spoke, that's first time, second time. Again, I've been told not just this council, the previous council, you have to cut down the debate. The people that are asking for cutting down the debate were the biggest speakers.
I'd like to have 5 questions. I don't
Oh,
think
I know.
there's enough opportunity to ask questions, to be honest with you, that's my personal opinion, but
Just question period.
yes.
I would
Okay.
say that because this procedural, like normally as committee work, we should be giving a concrete recommendation to council that we either support the changes to this procedural bylaw or not. But in this situation, the exception to that, I think, should be that we accept staff's recommendation to just move it on to council, knowing that there could be more discussion and that we're not recommending it carte blanche, that it's as is. we're just saying that we are recommending we move on to council for that fulsome discussion.
I think that was exactly what
discussion.
Yeah.
So exactly, I think that's exactly what we should do, so I will support that as a chair, that we've accepted it here in the sense of
We see.
work that's done, we've received it, and now we want it to go advance to the next level for a more open discussion on that. I think honestly, my opinion would be that we recommend this be a special meeting with the only item on the agenda and allows us to have that only
Too
item
much
on.
business, we got too much business.
Only item on the agenda, because I think there's gonna be a lot of discussion here, and I think we need to have that time to do so. So we'll only have one item on the agenda, that's,
Yeah, just,
who
let's
sets the
just,
agenda, me or
I'm
you?
just gonna recommend it.
Who sets the
I'm
agenda,
just
me or
asking
you?
to recommend.
Unfortunately, the mayor sets that in the
I'm
agenda,
joking, I
Yeah.
understand, okay.
so,
I respect that he
Yeah.
sets the agenda.
I'm
and if-
acutely aware of how our agenda magically expands
Yes,
over
okay.
the course of.
Okay, so, thank you, Melanie for that, I appreciate it. So I think we have a motion to move that, so
Okay.
by Councillor Yankoff, or sorry, Deputy Mayor Yankoff and Councillor McKinnon. And we're just gonna move into the next report, which is B, which was a summary of the Charlottetown and Summerside Joint Roundtable Discussion. I will say, the opportunity myself to attend that meeting along with actually our whole group here, so.
Yeah.
so our whole
We're the
group-
group, coincidentally.
here
We're
had the
all here, what?
opportunity to attend that, so I thought it was a great exercise of collaborating and listening to what other jurisdictions, in this case, the city of Summerside, some of the things that they're addressing and dealing with, and we have very parallel issues and activities that are happening, not just issues, there's lots of good work that's going on, so I don't wanna perceive that everything is an issue. So it was great, it was a good opportunity to have that in the agenda, so thank you for that opportunity and bringing that to us, Mayor Brown. And I know there's been a media posting about that, so that has gone out.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping there's feedback is well received, both from the community, but also from other partners who may have reached out, other communities, and suggested that, might be more opportunities to do that with, like, say, Stratford, Cornwall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Yep.
Right, yeah, and Mr. Chair, I do wanna thank the four of us for being there. It was going up and down, and finally the call was made, let's just go do it. Thank you very much for the staff that showed up, because the presentations were excellent, and I know we learned from each other. And Mayor Dan Kutcher said, I am asking the city of Charlottetown to reciprocate, so we're looking at the fall of this year to reciprocate, whether it's out at the new Simmons Community Center, or we go down to the Charlottetown Library Learning Center. We'll work those details out.
I think it'd be a great opportunity to use Simmons. We could also give them a tour of the facility as part of we got socks, we could give them a tour and give them some pucks. So let's do something
pins.
like that.
So that his
No,
worship
I got
will
the
give
pins, I gave you some pins.
Alright, no, so thank you. Is there anybody wanting to speak to that? James, did you have anything further you wanted to add to that? I
No, if
appreciate
you
you
have
putting
any
out the
questions.
communication.
Yeah, it was good,
And
really good.
it was a good representation of the work that we did collaboratively with Summerside, so thank you very much. Okay, moving on, there is no business arising from the closed session as per just the discussion that we had, so there was no decisions on anything other than discussion. And is there any new business? Hearing none, thank you very much, so move for adjournment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody, have a great day.